How are you guys doing? Glad to be here at the meatpacking district where the meat is packed. I don't actually know if that's what happens here. They said I only had 10 minutes. I prepared for 2 hours, but I'm just kidding. Maybe now that Jen can't make it, no, I'm just kidding. All right. So first of all, thank you guys so much for having me. Thanks for coming. Thank you, Jai, and the Deepline team. It was really nice to meet you guys. What I'm going to talk about today is basically like my day-to-day work that I do in Claude Code. One of my coworkers jokingly said that I live in the terminal, and I was chatting with some of the Deepline folks before this, and he was like, I was talking to one of the engineers, and he's like, I'm like a professional Claude Code prompter, and he's like an engineer, and I was like, well, I'm in sales, and I feel like I'm a professional Claude Code prompter, and you'll sort of see why that is, and like what I'm actually getting out of that, hopefully by the end of this. Definitely connect with me on LinkedIn if you get some value out of this, and you want to learn more about AirOps, please let me know. AirOps basically helps you get discovered in ChatGPT, AI search. So if that's a line of business that you guys are thinking about trying to get more detailed in at your work, let me know. I'm happy to help out. Anything else? There's my website, benjamin.ai, if you are interested in more of my long form writing. So anyway. So first thing, a lot of people, when we're like, oh yeah, Claude Code, what's the difference between Claude Code and Clay? Is a question that's I think is on a lot of people's minds. And I think the biggest thing is that Clay is deterministic. It's very observable. If you have an actual team that needs to see workflows and see outputs and stuff, that's probably preferable. The one thing that I don't like doing anymore is using a UI. I feel like when I have to click on stuff, I'm having an aneurysm, and I think Claude Code's turning me into an idiot or something. I'm not sure, but I use Whisperflow. There's a bunch of tools like that where you're just talking to the computer, and I'm like, hey Claude, I want to run this campaign to these people with this messaging and these personalization variables, and it just starts building it, right? And it sounds magical, but there's a lot of things that you kind of have to set up first, and I will say. Jai was showing me Deepline before this, and there's a lot of parallels between what took me months to build and what Deepline does natively. So if this sounds cool and you don't want to do all this, definitely check out Deepline. So this is just an example of some of the stuff that I've set up in Claude Code. These are all APIs that I use that are plugged into Claude Code, and so this is a stack that you would run an email campaign off of, right? So you could buy domains via Dynadot, via the API. It's the first time I ever spent money using Claude Code was buying URLs in Dynadot. It was a very weird experience, but anyway. We host our domains on Cloudflare. We warm up mailboxes in Email Bison, which is the sending tool that we use. Email Bison has a great API. All of these have pretty good APIs. And you basically these are all of the APIs that I have hooked up to our email stack that allow me to prompt the tools to go do X, Y, and Z, right? So one of the things there, personalization. I think one of the big differences between Clay and Claude Code as far as personalization goes is in Clay it's okay, you have to write a prompt, and now it has the meta prompter. I use Clay every day, by the way, so this is not a knock or anything. I'm just trying to let you guys know what the differences are. But it's very it's a lot slower to personalize things inside of the Clay UI than it is to just be hey, these are the personalization variables I want, and then assign a bunch of subagents to go fill in this variable. So there's a campaign that I was working on yesterday or earlier this week, right, where we pulled a company's competitors and we wanted to cite them in the email, and we were hey, this company and this company are showing up ahead of you in AI citations. Do you want to buy AirOps, basically, right? And you can get the same results in Clay, but the reviewing them is very difficult, and I'll show you guys. And basically, the reason like reviewing them is more difficult in Clay is because you like have to go like read all of them. And in Claude, I'm like, hey Claude, now that we've made all of these personalization variables, can you just have like a bunch of Sonnet subagents like go review this and make sure that this like actually makes sense? And on some level, like I do feel like I'm like offloading too much of the machines in that regard. I'm like, hey, do the work and also review it. But on the other hand, it comes out pretty good when you know how to sort of like finagle with the subagents, right? So you can sort of see some of the other things that we use to personalize this example campaign. We use the Moz API to like pull high domain authority blogs on their page and reference in the email and things like that. So definitely Haiku subagents are cheaping out. I wouldn't recommend Haiku subagents. One of the benefits of working at AirOps is that we pay Anthropic a lot of money. And so I have unlimited tokens. If you want unlimited tokens, it's a great perk in 2026. Come work at AirOps. You can get with me after the meeting for that. Let's see. Yeah, so in order for like this stuff to work, you do have to have like a pretty detailed context layer. So there's a couple things that I do to like get context and keep it like current, right? So like I have a bunch of documentation about like what AirOps is, what it does. I have an API onboarding flow. So anytime I decide to like onboard a new tool, I do a command that basically is like, hey, Claude Code, go download these API docs from the site, and we're going to use those API docs. And it kind of goes through that. And then like anytime I'm working in a tool, like whether it's Apollo or Email Bison or whatever, it knows that these are the API calls that it needs to make and things like that. Whereas like if you didn't have that stuff, Claude is going to go try to find the API docs every time. And there's already some issues with like the way that Claude Code sort of like works in this regard, and that like using an AI tool is very different from like a standard SaaS application because it's literally like writing a new script every time you want to do this. I think there's some possible like mitigations that I haven't like implemented all the way there, which is like having more deterministic scripting for these, I don't know if you refer to them as like tool calls or uses, right? Like, so anytime I'm uploading emails into Email Bison, instead of like having Claude Code like reread the docs and like write a new script every time, I should just have like a script there. And I just have been too lazy to do it. So yeah, one of the things like whenever people try to do this, like I will say like my Claude Code setup is very built out. I've spent like months building it out so that I can do all this stuff. They're like, well, I tried it and it was janky or didn't work right or whatever. And like my bet is that the frontier models will catch up to what we kind of know that they're capable of, and like the skills that like I'm building and that hopefully you guys are building will become more valuable as time goes on because like the jobs to be done part of like these, using these AI tools is like way more important than knowing how these AI tools work. And like, anyway. So yeah, basically like the end result of that is that I can pull a list. I have a bunch of stuff that has to be done in a list build, right? And like think about this, like when you build a list, like you have to do an exclusion list. You have to make sure that none of these leads are in like an opportunity stage. You have to make sure that none of these people have been contacted in the last 14 days. Like people who like aren't in sales or marketing, they're just like, oh, can you just go build me a list? And I'm like, like going down like all of the things that like have to be done to actually like get a list out the door. And it's like, it's quite a bit. And this is the kind of stuff that like Claude Code makes a lot easier for me. And like, I think it allows me to deliver higher quality work. Whereas you think about probably some of the experiences that we've all had with marketing and RevOps teams. They're like, oh yeah, I built this list, and you like go look at it, and like half of them are like in opportunity stage or not good accounts and stuff like this. And over time, if you learn to use Claude Code in this regard, I can almost guarantee you that you're going to deliver better work faster. So I'm basically out of time. Thank you guys so much for coming. Hopefully this was helpful. Please holler at me after the show if you have any questions. We'd love to chat with you guys. So thank you.
Questions. If anybody has any questions for Ben,
not personal questions.
Yeah,
about, like,
the most embarrassing personal question.
Yeah.
Yes.
I assume you're building like a ton of different lists and different use cases, even recycling some leads 6 months down the line. How
What was the answer? Well, yeah. So CRM properties, yes. Like there's any activity should be recorded in the CRM, but I actually do have an SQLite database on my computer that holds a little bit better records than like our HubSpot instance, because a lot of this stuff you don't really want to like pollute HubSpot with, and I'm not going to like ask the RevOps team to like build me a new field every time I have like some weird flight of fancy, right? So like. If you just look up, and by the way, you can ask Claude Code these questions too. I always recommend that. Be like, hey, Claude, what would the solution be to this? Like some guy at this thing said to have an SQLite database with like all of our records, stored internally with like activities that we're doing in Claude Code. So like last time an email was validated, the provider, the status, like you think about that's one of the shortfalls of like Clay is like you go validate a bunch of emails and then like you never see that information again because you like don't go back to that table. So I hope that answers the question a little bit.
Yeah.
Cool. Anybody else? Okay. Yeah.
Just real quick, I guess, like, how do you scale this for, like, much larger campaigns? Like, I noticed it's kind of 50 here, 50 there. Like, we go out to 10,000 contacts a month.
Oh, you can do thousands of leads with this. I don't know why it said 50. That was like a typo or something. Yeah, I mean, I launched, most of the campaigns I launch have like 1,000, 2,000 people in it. You could do a lot more. It's just a matter of token costs. But yeah.
Because on the Subagent side, it's pretty challenging for, like, spinning up. Like, typically, Claude Code doesn't like to do more than 5 or 10 at a time.
You can tell it to do like, I usually have it do 20, but I'm about out of time, man. I'll come chat with you later, man. Thank you so much.